What's going on, y'all? My name is Damien, and in today's video I'm basically going to be showing you guys how to scan your AWS CDK stacks using Trivy. Trivy is one of the tools that I've been using to basically scan any of my Terraform templates as well as my CDK stacks in the past for any type of security misconfigurations and security vulnerabilities. So I decided to basically just go through and walk y'all through how to do that. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So if you don't necessarily know what AWS CDK is, let me go ahead and let me talk to you about that and show you what it is. So this is the GitHub page right here. And what it is, as they defined it, it's an open source software development framework to define cloud infrastructure and code and provision it through AWS CloudFormation. So it basically allows people who use like very popular programming languages like Python or Java to be able to use these dependencies, install it, and basically programmatically write out the infrastructure and deploy it into AWS. So the programming language that I'm basically going to be using is going to be in Python, and they also have a very neat way of showing you how to actually get started using this as well. The official documentation for the developer guide or getting started, you can basically go here, the developer guide, and you can kind of see what exactly CDK is and really dive deeply into it. So if you don't necessarily know what Trivy is the all-in-one open source security scanner. So it's the most popular open source security scanning framework that allows people to, or that you can use to find vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, SBOOM discoveries, Kubernetes security risk, and so many different other things. So the good thing about this is that it's basically an all-in-one solution. And I definitely love the fact that it's open source because you don't necessarily have to pay for it, right? So that's essentially what Trivy is, and these are all the various different targets that Trivy can scan, like Kubernetes. You scan virtual machines or virtual machine images, repositories, all kinds of cool things. So this is part of the reason why I really wanted to use this and kind of show y'all and create a video around it, because it's free, it's open source, and it actually produces some really good results. So let's get right into me actually showing y'all how to basically scan the CDK code base that I'm going to be using for this demo. So this is the project that I have, and it's called AWS CDK Python Starter. So essentially, this is the CDK application that I have that allows me to be able to deploy into my AWS account. So the type of infrastructure that I'm going to be deploying is basically going to be inside of the teststack.py class. And there's two things that I'm going to attempt to scan with Trivy. The first thing is we're going to be looking at this SQSQ, as well as this example EC2 instance. So the goal for me is to, step one, I want to be able to synthesize the CDK stack so that it shows up in this out file, and we have these JSON files, which is pretty much our infrastructure in a CloudFormation form. And then after that, I want to be able to scan these infrastructure files with Trivy, or these JSON files with Trivy, to point out all the insecure vulnerabilities or misconfigurations and give me some recommendations. But before I do that, I don't actually have it on my machine. So I'm basically just going to go ahead and install it right now. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say, go follow the directions. So it says, in order to get Trivy, we got to go do this. I have a Mac, but I'm not using it. I'm using Windows. So I can put it in Docker if I want to, but I honestly want to download the binary. So I'm going to come here. This is the most recent release. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and I'm going to get it on Windows. So download the zip file. I'm going to save that into. So let me do that. So let me go to the downloads. I'm going to come here. We're going to extract this. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it into the other folder. Copy this, and I'm going to paste it here. So let's see if I can paste it here. Yeah. So I'm going to paste it at the root of this folder. It's definitely not recommended that you do that. You definitely want to like go through and actually, configure your environment variables and whatnot, your path to set it up. But because I'm kind of being lazy right now, I'm just going to copy it here and then execute it right from PowerShell. So Trivy.exe, you can see that Trivy has been downloaded, so I can execute it, and this is the results that I'm getting after the execution. So this is all the various different commands that it supports, but the key command that we're going to end up using is located here in my Jenkins file. And there's also one thing I want to note or point out is that with Trivy, you can put this into a pipeline or into a GitHub action. There are ways to do that, and it actually is located on their GitHub page as well. So that's just something to keep in mind if you want to like automate this or throw this into a pipeline. So this is a Trivy config command, and this is basically stating in my pipeline that I'm dumping all of the high and critical vulnerabilities into this Trivy report. This is what exactly I want, and this is what we're also going to do, but we're not going to dump it into a report. We're just going to have it print out in the CLI. So now we're going to execute the CDK synth command in the terminal, and what this is basically going to do is it's going to create all these JSON files inside of this folder once again. And all these JSON files that's in this folder are basically going to be ready for deploying into AWS. So we want to get it into the state where it's actually ready to be deployed. So I'm going to execute this command, and essentially it's going to synthesize that single stack, and you can see that some changes have been made here. And you can also see that there's a context.json file here. You can see that it basically errored out, said that, it needs to perform AWS calls for the account, but no credentials were configured. It doesn't necessarily matter because at the end of the day, we're going to end up just scanning this locally. I don't necessarily want to make a call to AWS just for the purposes of this demo, right? So now that we've generated the stack, and you can see that the stacks are still here anyway, we're going to actually execute Trivy against them. So I'm going to go back into this file and get this command, and I'm going to type it out. So it's going to be Trivy.exe config, and we're going to do severity, and the config is basically like, scan these configuration files. We're going to do high, critical, and then we're going to do CDK out, right? And hit enter. And what's going to happen is it's basically going to go through, it's going to scan everything, and it's going to report back to us like any misconfigurations it finds. So as you can see, these are some of the results that Trivy has given us. And you can see that if we look at the results from this test stack template.json file, you see there's a couple of things that it points out. It says that there's one high vulnerability or issue with our configured EC2 instance, basically stating that it does not require IMDS access. So we need to enable, the recommendation is to enable IMDS v2, right? And if we wanted to look at how we'd be able to do it, the great thing that AlcoSec did was, and I'm just going to open this up so y'all can see it, is they're pulling this information from, their source, their databases, but they also give you a recommended action on how to fix it in Terraform, and they also give you some examples on how you should be able to do it as well, right? So it's really, really nice to have things like this. This is one example of it from a misconfiguration standpoint. And then if we wanted to look at the recommendation that they have, let's say for this critical issue, right? Let's open this one up, and you'll be able to see this is critical because, of course, the egress security rule traffic allows like everything. So basically our ports are open up to the world, and we don't necessarily want that. So you can see here that it also gives you some more recommendations on how to do this, but this time they did it for CloudFormation as well. So one thing I really like about this is that it gives you the recommended actions you can take to fix your infrastructure and your misconfigurations. And we can also look at another one, which is here. Enable encryption at rest. It's another one, right? And you can see there's another way for you to be able to fix this as well. So if you use CloudFormation or Terraform, you'll be able to do it. and it works perfectly fine. So the link at the bottom is usually like reference links for you to go and read up on the type of technology that was impacted, as well as like following some of the AWS recommendations for securing your infrastructure. And that wraps up this video, y'all. Thank you so much for the support. If you found this video helpful or you liked what I basically went over, which was Trivy and also AWS CDK at a very high level, please make sure you like, subscribe, and also share with your friends as well. Make sure you also check the links in the description to learn how to install Trivy and also pull down this code base because it's going to be available for you on GitHub as well. And that's it. Thank you all so much. Have a good one. Later.